Test. Oh, yeah, that looks like I'm good. Okay. I'm Phil Wyman, and this is the Wild Theology Podcast, where the world, the humans in it, and God are all wilder than we've been told.
That's your intro.
So, you'll get philosophy and theology and crazy stories that come from 30 years of pastoring,
Boring.
20 years of festival work,
Whatever.
and the mud and blood of wrestling with the living in the spaces angels fear to tread.
Trying to sound interesting, are we? Yeah, you think you got something to say?
Yes.
Yeah, that's the problem, dimwit.
Like I'm a lot smarter than you think.
Yeah, you tightened your shoes this morning.
Whatever. We're Phil Wyman, and this is Wild Theology, where you get to argue with your own ideas.
And lose.
That's the point. If you would like to support this podcast, you can do so by going to patreon.com/Phil Wyman.
Okay, now I finally had to look it up and cheat and find out this is called a Candela wrapper. So the Rocky Patel Mulligan Fairway Edition, this Candela cigar, and gonna cut it. Probably have to cut it again. It's pretty tight. Yeah, I'm gonna give it one more cut.
Okay.
A little bit of a tight draw. Just trying to cut as little off as possible initially, but this will do it. Still a little tight, but yeah, I can feel where it's tight right in here. Sometimes just lighting it will open it up. Oh, listen to that. Sounds like a jet engine, this lighting. That Candela wrapper really jumps out at you when you first light this up. It's kind of sweet, and you just know that that's a green leaf. Mm-hmm. Oh, we can't really start this kind of stuff without the full. Should we have the Belching Beaver? What was this? An IPA?
Sure.
A pale ale. Ale. Oh, it's not Belching Beaver. The other one's Belching Beaver. AleSmith. Pale ale, and it's the 394. This as soon as I saw 394, I knew who it was. It's Tony Gwynn. Oh. He was one of the guys that get closest to batting 400 in the season. It hasn't been done since who's it who did that?
I'm not a baseball fan.
I'm not a baseball fan either. It's just I just loved Tony Gwynn, and I was watching when he was, looking like he was gonna bat 400 in the season. I was like, oh man, do it, Tony, because he just seemed like such an upstanding guy.
Throw that down and let the stuff get cooler. There you go.
And the fact that I don't know who it was who batted 400, is evidence to anybody who watches that I'm not a baseball fan.
Okay. Yachidah.
Yachidah indeed. So, to all my friends in Wales, there's a Candela Rocky Patel cigar and a AleSmith.
And a
San Diego
Reserve.
Padre. A private reserve Mulligan.
Nice pale. A little spicy, but nice.
That is really good.
Yeah. AleSmith. Always a good bet. Always a good bet.
Okay.
I'm ready for the podcast.
In early 2014, Tony Gwynn approached them to collaborate on a unique new beer. Okay. Makes it all the better. Yeah. So, it's a good start to a podcast.
I think so.
Okay, so here we're officially into the Wild Theology Podcast. You can't really get started until you get the cigars and the pale ales going, right?
Really. We have our priorities.
And yeah. I'm liking this cigar and I'm loving this beer. I mean, this is a combination that's just like, wow, it's awesome.
Can't go wrong with Rocky Patels.
Yeah, it's pretty much true. So we're going to talk some more Burning Man with Jim Hogue.
We are?
And this, we are. Burning Man. Burning Man.
Burning Stick.
Burning Man. Yes. We've done that before, and we're going to do it again. And a little bit of it's going to be on the issue of what's going on with Burning Man. And, like you just said, you don't want to belabor the point, you said a second ago, but there's been some problems with within the Burning Man community and people who are frustrated with how things have gone. And yet there's some positive things happening in the same hand. And then there's still a problem of, what kind of Christian are you? You go to Burning Man?
Yeah.
That hedonistic event?
Yeah. So stake me to a pole and light me on fire.
Isn't that what I'm doing right now?
That's right. This is as close as we get to burning heretics.
That's right. That's right. Okay. So
That'd make a nice cigar label, wouldn't it?
so as now you're kind of to some degree like an insider to the Burning Man community these days, aren't you?
It's just that I happen to be involved with volunteering, and I work with a really great crew of people. I mean, I miss them all year long, and we keep in touch, and then I get to see them once a year. This time twice a year, because I'll be going to Pagan Bunny Burn too, but which is held up in the Northern California.
Right.
But now that
Up near Sacramento.
No, beyond Sacramento, quite a bit.
Okay.
Elk Creek.
Okay.
So, but the thing about it is, it's just that we've all been. The Burning Man org has recognized has been a cultural shift, and we're trying to re-emphasize and get back to the values that we always, the 10 principles.
Right.
The thing is that
are you able to roll off the 10 principles
no,
off of your tongue?
no,
Just the most important ones, maybe.
leave no trace.
Leave no
That's
trace.
one of the big problems.
You arrive and you clean up, and it should look like it was before you got there.
Actually, we had
Basically,
the best MOOP map ever this last year. It was
For those
the
who
best
don't
cleanup.
know,
MOOP is
MOOP, matter
out of
place. Right.
Yeah. So
Trash.
trash, and we have this big map of the event, and you'll see green where it's good. You'll see yellow where it's kind of nasty, and you'll see red where somebody really left a lot of stuff. There was no red.
Right.
It was practically just pristine.
Wow.
And it's people work very hard for the whole month of September into sometimes October, a week or so, and then to clean up. This is if we were never there.
Right. Okay.
Thing is, though, we've been noticing that as the event has gotten bigger and people come from all over the world, some people they're more consuming the event than actually contributing to it. And the thing is, it's a participatory event. It isn't Coachella, and it isn't a concert or a music festival. It's actually a community we build for a week. So it's a city.
Right. Well, and every time I've been, I'm either building an art project or I'm bringing something that is a kind of art project to share with people. And it takes me sometimes all year to prepare to go.
Yeah.
Because I'm a participant in the event, not a consumer of it.
And that's and a lot of people still at the event. We're right next to the V spot, the volunteer place, where anybody, once they get their camp set up, can go down there and volunteer to do just about anything on the playa.
Right.
A lot of people go through there, and then we have volunteers at Playa Info, amazing volunteers that really, really work hard to get the thing all together and ready to go, and then people working hard to collect all the lost and found, which is one of the biggest things that we do there in Playa Info, and people who answer questions all day long for burners coming in.
So you said, beginning of that thought, that the Burning Man organization, the org, was recognizing a cultural shift.
They did a couple of years ago. Actually.
Okay, and now what's the cultural shift?
The cultural shift seems to be more like people coming to consume the event rather than actually participate.
Okay.
So what happens is, people don't know how to camp. People who come into
wow, that is not a good place to not know how to camp. I mean,
that's a dangerous place to be if you don't know how to camp.
Going camping and not knowing how to do it is kind of problematic anyway. You stumble through something, but there's a difference between stumbling through learning to camp and dying because you didn't know how to do it. Well, people can get really hurt.
Nobody is dehydration. As far as we know, nobody has died from that. There's plenty of other things you can die from.
They sure would be miserable. I mean, there's enough people around there to save them from their stupidities, but
we do.
That's a hard place not to know.
The nice thing is that we do.
Right.
There are a lot of burners who will step up and help people who they're clearly struggling, and they'll see them. I mean, it's still a place where you can stumble and fall, and people come running out from all directions. You don't even know where they came from, and try to help you.
Right.
So there's that, and but occasionally, leaving Burning Man, you see, and the org cleans it all up, but it's sometimes it seems the org has been moving toward changing the culture and getting us back to that, because there's it's an easy thing to consume, but the thing is, what has been happening is more participatory things, and especially in music. You hear all kinds of music at Center Camp now.
Okay, you're talking live music.
Live music.
Which there was always an uncomfortable relationship with live music, and quite frankly, as a musician, I have an uncomfortable relationship. My instruments have an uncomfortable relationship with Burning Man because the dust, the alkali dust.
Yeah.
I took my 12-string there, which I just love that guitar. Oh my gosh. It was a couple years before I didn't have dust in little crevices on my 12-string. That's brutal environment, and that stuff eats things up.
Yeah.
So I've taken the sound system, and that sound system still has dust from Burning Man. And that was for, what year was it that we did Theophany?
That was 2012. Yeah.
Almost 8 years later. We're coming 7.5 years later,
a
and
long
the
time
dust
ago.
can still be found in the cracks of the sound system.
I have the control panel for that art project right on the other, right in the shed, and it's got dust in curious places too.
Exactly. I'm sure I have dust in curious places.
I'm sure my lungs have got a coating.
Yeah.
Seventh burn, and I'm buying a mask this time.
Yeah. Okay.
I'm not relying
You're
on my
going
scarves.
big. You're going big.
I'm going big on that, because sometimes it's not blowing white out, but it's still dusty, and it's just
you've been wanting to do this all along. You're just a steampunker at heart.
Well, not that kind of mask. An actual dust mask.
Come on, you got to mix the two together, right?
Yeah, go get an Israeli gas mask, and
there you go.
fat lot of good that's going to do. Yeah, but it's moving the other. There's a lot moving around in the other direction. Now the fire conclave, there's a brass band that plays them out to the man to start the burn.
Okay.
We have an orchestra. We've got we've got several bands. We've got music going practically 24/7 in Center Camp.
Right. I was seeing that. It still wasn't a biggest part of the music scene, which is mostly, DJs.
Yeah.
At the big sound camps, but I was seeing that going on. There's been a little bit of it. You always had your New Orleans section of what do they call that? The section where the camps are all kind of a New Orleans themed thing. What camp is that?
I haven't seen that.
Oh my gosh, it's a pretty big camp, and they got jazz music in it. And
now you get an idea how big the thing is. I'll be my 7th burn next time, and there's a lot of stuff I haven't seen.
Yeah, and these guys have been around for a long time, and it's kind of like a Bourbon Street little setup of New Orleans look to it. It's pretty impressive, and they got jazz going. So there's always been that, but it seemed to be more music. Definitely was coming in, and they were pushing for live music. at Center Camp. You know, I played one night. The last time I was there 2 years ago.
Yeah.
So,
well, see, the year after that was the theme was iRobot, and what happened was the Alan Parsons band got wind of it and asked the org if they could come and play the entire album, which they did. Plus about an hour and a half of new stuff before they started into
the Alan
album.
Parsons Project came in.
They came.
That's
in fact, there's
amazing.
There's a burner in town here who
you mean
actually
it wasn't like Daft Punk at the trash fence, huh?
No, but that was marvelous.
joke.
I mean, I go to that every year. Every year I go to that.
So
Yeah, I send all my friends out there. I go.
If you go to Burning Man, you got to see Daft Punk at the trash fence.
At the trash fence, midnight. Come naked.
Hey, this is a Christian podcast, you know.
Sorry. Well, it's all right. It's not a real concert.
Oh, you just blew it.
I just blew it.
You just gave away the joke that you've been telling for decades now.
Yeah, decades. Everybody knows it. Guys, there's actually some people put a Halloween skeleton out there with a Daft Punk ball cap on, a Daft Punk shirt on, and it's up against a trash fence. I got a picture of it.
I
actually
saw it
in the flesh, so to speak, and it's holding a sign saying, "I believe."
Too good.
We got to come up with a new one.
Yeah. So. Somebody did a U2 one 2 years ago. The U2 is going to be here, and people, and their posters all over the place.
Well, getting back to Alan Parsons' band, they came out and did the whole thing.
Are you sure you're not?
No, I'm not. I've got video of this.
Okay.
In fact, I ran the battery down on my camera on it, but it was great. It was at one point they stop and he looks out at the audience. We're all dressed up in L wire and LEDs and everything, so we don't get run over. And so we're all lit up with lights. And he says, normally at our concerts we have a light show. And he looks out at us and says, "You guys are the light show."
Yeah.
Ain't we just?
Yeah.
So
that's too good.
That was a magical time. But about the dust, they went back to Lindsay's camp, and they were having had sushi brought in, and so they're eating it. And Lindsay says, "Did you bring your good instruments or your kind of beater instruments out to this?" And it's all the good ones. He says, do you notice this dust? He filled them in. You're going to have to take these things apart and clean them completely.
That's right.
It was a big shock.
Alan Parsons, that's good. So that relationship with music is, growing relationship with live music is kind of new because they've always had a struggle with that. You know?
Yeah, and the thing about this...
It's impressive to hear that's going on.
It was volunteer, too. The music is all volunteer. You bring your music, you play it. Even this band did the same thing. And there's more of that. Burning Man is something you make, not something you come and experience it, but you also contribute to it as well. That's
the ideal.
Yeah.
But that was the cultural shift that's been a struggle.
It's been a struggle as it got popular,
right?
And then
when it's 75,000 people, all of a sudden the percentage of people who were actual doers versus consumers, that began to change.
There's no way of really knowing what that is, except you just kind of see things. You see stuff getting dumped, camps being left messy, but that's not a problem as of last year. You had people not really being considerate of other people, and that happens.
Right.
It happens. But
I had recognized it was 2 years ago, and then again about I think it was 2 years before that, so 2 years and 4 years ago. I think that's how it is, that the amount of theft had increased from my first burn until then. It looked like exponentially. A lot of people were complaining about theft, and we had the camp near us that somebody broke into their trailer and stole all... Yeah. It was a bar.
Emptied their bar.
It was a 24-hour-a-day open... Well, I think it was basically like 8 a.m. to midnight to 2 a.m. And they stole all their booze, and so the local camps, the ones around them, were all pitching in to help them restock that. But it was tens of thousands of dollars of booze. It was all stolen. That was not something I'd ever seen or heard of before at Burning Man, and here it was happening, not just in one place.
No, it has been going around, and yet people have to be careful. The bikes get stolen a lot. Not like people are actually, going there to be bike thieves. It's more like people get really, careless and just grab a bike and drive right away with it, and then
grab anybody's bike, right,
and dump it.
Right.
And we have a free bike program called the Yellow Bikes, except they're actually green.
Yeah.
And it's just kind of a shift that was bound to happen. I don't really fault the org for it or anything like that. It's just that in a consumer society, which surrounds what we're doing at Burning Man, it's a very powerful culture. Right. And the problem is that's what we always do. We consume. Mm-hmm. So in the process of consumption, there's often people demanding an experience, getting frustrated if they don't get it,
right.
Frustrated if they're blocked in any way, and kind of an individualistic type approach to things, which really doesn't fit the spirit of this experience in Burning Man. So that's really peaking now, or it has been peaking for a while, and it looks like the org is moving another way. But the main point is about all of this is just what we have in what a burner would call default world is powerful,
which is just life as we normally experience it.
So a consumer culture, an economy based on scarcity, a status culture.
All right.
These things threaten Burning Man just like they threaten anything.
Right.
So it took a while to get to us, but there it is, and we're dealing with it. And what's going to be interesting is how they deal with it, because I've seen even in churches, in evangelicalism in general, there's the same forces are at work, and they contradict the original spirit of the community, the wisdom of Scripture, everything. We just take the default culture and soak it. Soak our churches, our communities with that. And it gets through.
Yeah. Let's take a short break, and then I think I want to flip. Just as you answered that, just as you made that comment about it, it's like that in the church too. I thought, you know what? Let's shift this podcast to talk about that. How the struggles at Burning Man look like the struggles in the church. But I'm going to take a quick break. Okay, back. Relit cigar a bit more.
This is tasty.
You like that cigar?
Oh, I do.
I'm liking this Candela cigar too. This is it's pretty nice.
Is there one more in there? I'll have to try that.
There is.
Excellent.
Another one in there.
Okay.
So, we going to move now to a different thought. I was going to, initially was thinking of going a different direction, but then when you were talking about problems and Burning Man, trying to deal with them and how it was being influenced by the surrounding culture, that naturally leads to the thought of, oh man, that sounds just like Christianity today, oftentimes so influenced by the surrounding culture. And you, as I was thinking that, you mentioned, the churches, too.
I did jump. I did step in there, didn't I?
You did. You stepped in that one. It was a big old dew pile.
Okay. Well, not being foreign to that kind of experience, I'll just say that Burning Man is dealing with it.
Okay.
And they're doing it without draconian measures or with anything like that. They're creatively directing the community back on track, and they have what they call the 10 principles.
Right.
That they do that, and it kind of surprises me that essentially it seems like the whole church-going experience sometimes appears to be a consumer-based experience, and that you go to a church that excites you, that has a good social life, and you find friends there and a whole bit, but where's the idea of service? Where's the idea of what you bring to it, and your personal investment in your mission, in your obligations to Christ? And the church, the experience sometimes is primarily the Sunday service, and you want to get a teaching that you really like and really agree with, and that's another consumerist type approach. So it tends to get a little off kilter, you might say, because we're supposed to be bringing stuff to the community, and our community is supposed to be bringing stuff to the greater community, in Christ, and we've actually, I think, slipped farther away from that than Burning Man has slipped away from their
10 principles. Yeah.
So and we don't have just 10 principles. We have the whole body of Scripture, a ton of history, and the Spirit. What's going on?
The 10 principles does seem like a bit of a playoff of the 10 Commandments.
Yeah, I suppose.
I wonder if they actually had like 7, and they go, "We got to find 3 more to make this
exactly like the Mel Brooks
make
movie.
this legit." Mel
Brooks, The History of the World, his take on Moses.
Yeah.
I got 15. Crash. 10 commandments.
So, switching over to kind of turning the mind toward the church, and keeping that, how Burning Man's struggling with the surrounding culture and trying to deal with it in order to, in a sense, clean up their event, as it were, or to keep it faithful to its principles. Yeah,
a lot of people are still there.
Now, it is interesting. On an individual basis, I can point to a lot of pastors I've known who feel that same struggle and are trying to find ways to deal with that from church to church. But I do feel, similarly to you, that there's a movement that, rather than trying to battle the influence of that surrounding culture and its capitalistic tendencies, in the most negative sense of capitalism, of the consumerist tendencies of our culture, that it actually is using those things to grow, or attempt to grow, as opposed to struggling against those things. In a sense, appealing to the lesser angels, the angels of our worse nature than our better nature, right?
And that you're talking about the
church.
The church,
yeah,
because we tend to the thing about modern evangelicalism is it tends to isolate from the world. It tends to consider the world the enemy, the other.
Right.
And so basically you end up shielding yourself or isolating yourself from those you're supposed to be serving and engaging. And that never works out well. The thing about Burning Man that they've got that's good is it's the idea that every burner is personally invested in the experience. I don't see that in evangelicalism.
Well, that certainly was supposed to be supposed to be the impetus behind the concept of the priesthood of all believers.
Yeah.
Going back to the Reformation, Martin Luther saying, "Here's an important thing within the life of the church. I'm not the only one as the pastor who's has something to say and is full of wisdom and has value for the community. Everybody ought to."
Yeah.
Now that clearly is a part of a Protestant tradition, and so evangelicalism and Pentecostalism falling into being offshoots of that Pentecostal tradition, kind of.
Yeah. But
we hold that, but
yeah, I'm going back farther.
Okay.
I'm going back pre-Constantine, and looking from a scriptural basis how it was applied in the first 200 years.
Right.
That basically we're all disciples of Christ. We are
that
all
apostolic impetus of the first apostles, having walked with Jesus and
then
being kicked in the butt to go out and do the stuff 2 by 2.
Exactly, and the thing is, they are passing that on to us.
Right.
And it happened. I mean, this faith exploded. These communities exploded all over the Roman Empire,
Right.
And beyond. And
Right.
the thing is, and it wasn't an organized movement like we had, but it was. I've also looked back at experiences in the Jesus movement. Like I said in an earlier podcast, I never got the memo that none of this mattered. And the problem is, a disciple is somebody who is invested in reconciliation, the ministry of reconciliation in 2 Corinthians 5, the idea that we are appealing and reconciling as if God were reconciling through us.
Right.
See, that's not an isolationist position, not even close. It's actually a conciliatory, a moving out there, of engaging.
Right.
It's an engaging thing, and reconciliation is the ministry of reconciliation is what it's called, and that doesn't look like slamming your door in the face of or insulting people who don't know Christ, even those hostile,
Right.
because it's so. What I'm saying is that we lack the personal investment of actual discipleship and the practice of discipleship. That I hear people all over the country, and I traveled all over the country for a long time, just working. And I would talk to people while traveling, Christians, professing Christians, and I'd ask them about pretty much their faith and their experience, and all they could talk about was their church and their pastor.
Right.
Yeah. So
where's Christ in your Christianity in that? Yeah.
Kind of where is your investment? Where's your ownership?
Right.
And the thing is that a lot of it is not there, not because people have chosen to turn their back on it. It just isn't taught. It isn't.
Sure.
It's certainly there, and it's historically, not even questionable as far as what it is. But in the average day-per-day American church life, it's not even mentioned. It's not.
Right.
It's not practiced. It's not. We sit down in home groups. I've done this many times. We go through curated, pre-written questions with certain answers that are expected, even fill in the blank. There's no discussion or struggling over anything, and so it's all so controlled, and so it's like a consumer product.
Right.
It's almost like that refrigerator over there that nobody can see.
The Lion Cooler,
Mm-hmm.
Acco Power, that you purchased from some Welsh guy
in Las Vegas.
in Las Vegas. Okay. Yeah,
So it's a package. Okay, that comes. It does this stuff. What I do with it is again that's something else. But it's like you got this package. You got church. You got your social life, everything. But it's all insular. And I haven't seen too many churches that I couldn't bring an atheist or a Muslim friend to. Because I know, especially in this town, because I know they would get confronted, insulted, and demeaned.
Right. And if not directly, they'd probably be somewhat ignored from the individuals, but all the individuals would hope it would come from the pulpit. Say something, Pastor. Say something.
Exactly.
We got an atheist here.
Yeah. Now the thing is that
How about, man, it's really good to have you. We are honored that you walked into our building because we realize what kooks we are.
yeah, and it's like
that's kind of the way I would approach it.
and find out who this person is. I mean, get their story, talk to them. You know how you like to be treated, and a lot of I've seen how some of my compatriots and some of the churches I've been in treat people who are not in the faith, and they wouldn't like to be treated that way.
Right.
Right. It's just crazy. So
have you seen other Christians who are attempting to speak to this problem and are having at least any success, whether it's on a personal level or it's on, maybe a small corporate level, home groups or small churches or the unchurched networks that are beginning to rise up? Are you seeing any place where people are speaking to this, or at least battling against doing something about it?
A lot of them things have changed, and we've had cultural problems that go way beyond what Burning Man has ever experienced and ever will.
Well, yeah.
And that's
I mean, they started struggling, at 70, 75,000. You get all those numbers. Christianity's got 1.5 billion or something. What is it?
And they got
so no wonder we have so many problems. We're the big boys on the block. We're going to have more bad people than anybody else.
We've been around a long time
a long
too.
Time. We can pick up all kinds of trash.
We have congregations that would let's see what can we put on that one? Let's see, Westboro Baptist Church.
Yeah.
We can
not as somebody doing a good job.
No, not as doing a good job. They're not moving that way. I think as people kind of realize how the state of things have gotten, where American Christianity has gotten so political,
right,
and so nationalistic, and in many cases racist, with white supremacist groups that claim to be Christian, Aryan nation, that kind of stuff.
Right.
We have all these expressions that people outside of the faith will look at and they're just aghast.
Right.
Like, how could they? And I know atheists who know the biblical argument against that better than a lot of Christians do.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
And it gets to the point where, we have to step back, and a lot of people have stepped away completely. Right. And a lot of those people who are kind of reconstructing after that experience are also seeing that they really weren't practicing the faith.
Right.
That there's a mission, there's an ownership, there's discipleship, there is growth, there is transformation, there is encouragement in the community and all that.
Right.
And they long for that.
All right. Now, are you seeing some people beginning to do that?
Some, yeah, in some places.
Like some examples? Do you have some examples that come to mind?
Well, there are groups that get together. There are actually people who unchurched, you might say. They feel that gathering together as believers and struggling over this together and praying for each other and really engaging their communities.
Right.
So yeah, they find it tremendously liberating instead of being in an insular, isolated, us against them environment that really should never have existed.
Right.
They actually engage and move out. We have a church here in town that's like that.
Okay.
And it's great. I mean, and yeah, it's there's a lot of stuff coming down.
Right.
And
now, last year when we got together and we met at that little pub in San Marcos. And Joby, remember meeting Joby?
Yes.
Pastoring in Escondido. Joby McGinty. And it was really interesting when he was talking about, hey, what's going on in your life? It wasn't, oh, my church this, oh, my church that. It was, oh, I'm coaching a couple little league teams, and what was really amazing was, now here's a Christian pastor, and he's got boys who are playing baseball, but he says, and my only rules, there were some rules about, the quality of the player. I forget what it was. There's some rules for picking a player. And he says, and I have a third one, and it is that they can't be Christian. Because for him it's a missionary kind of thing, but he's just coaching and teaching them to play baseball, and all the kids love him. And I thought, man, that's Christianity on an edge that it ought to be on. That's missional in what the word ought to be, right?
Yeah. And it's all part and parcel to our development and our relationship with Christ. It actually we're active, we're doing something, not just passive sitting and being taught, or as being fed, as one person said.
Right.
I got that being fed. That came out of my generation back in the 70s. And the thing is that it was about going to a place that had good teaching, but it's funny.
I heard that a couple times over the years as a pastor. I just don't feel like I'm being fed here, and it's like, wow,
Yeah. And
let me give you a bottle to take with you as you go, and when you don't need the bottle, here's a binky too.
Yeah.
So you need, but that statement has such, and it comes from it's like the desires of an infant, you know.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I need to be fed. Feed me.
Well, there even Paul mentions
Wow.
something that's like that. And they're like, well, by now you should all be, grown up. You should be eating solid food, but you need milk.
Yeah.
And the thing is that it's interesting too, because there was a lady in a Christian vacuum cleaner shop, which I've never seen a Christian vacuum cleaner, but anyway. But
I was gonna ask,
Yeah.
what is a Christian vacuum cleaner?
I didn't want to know.
That's
Anyway, so I wasn't going to ask. So anyway, she said, well, you got a church home. I'm going, first of all, a church is a community, not a place. So I said, well, no, not yet. I just came back from, the East. It says, well, we got to have a church home. You got to be fed. And I'm going, I looked at her. I said, well, after 45 years, I learned how to cook. Yeah, because I don't.
How did she respond to that?
The phone rang and she had to leave. She didn't come back. She didn't ask.
Okay.
So basically, yeah, I think we're blocked in our own practices by making being a Christian a consumerist type of deal, where we have to get a church that we like, we have to get a social group that we like, and we have to isolate ourselves and just basically it's all for us and about us.
Right.
And it isn't. We come to discipleship called. We're a sent people.
Right.
And we're also supposed to take care of each other.
Right.
And that doesn't happen. I mean, you could have a massive tragedy in your life and you get a casserole and an expression of sympathy. Yeah, that helps. So there are problems. We're not invested, and we're not being disciples. We're just being churchgoers.
Right.
And that, the thing about the burners is they're invested in this, and they're all actively working on that.
Right. Or as we would say, the burners versus the people who attend Burning Man.
Right.
Which, in a similar way, do you think we have that going on within Christianity right now? Those who go to church and those who are church?
I would say that between the church and Burning Man is a lot better set off than we are, because we have a higher number of people who are invested in that community
Percentage wise.
Right. than we have, I think, in evangelicalism. And
Well,
I've seen it so bad that I was castigated for knowing an atheist and taking him to a doctor's appointment
castigated at church.
in a home group,
Wow.
surrounded, and read the riot act for that.
Wow. Okay. Well, let's stop this podcast with that thought. That
Okay.
Christianity isn't doing as well as Burning Man and having people who are real participants in the event of what it's about.
In my personal opinion, yes.
Wow. So, that's why this is called Wild Theology Podcast.
Wild enough for you?
Awesome.
Thank you to my patrons who help make these missional travels and these podcasts possible. Without you, I couldn't do it. God bless. If you'd like to support this project, you can do so here on Patreon for as little as $1 a release. And at the most, that's $4 a month.
Why on earth would anybody want to support us?
But I think we're pretty cool, and maybe some people believe in what we're doing.
Oh, come on, you believe that?
Yeah.
Don't you ever think they're just a little too weird for the average person?
Yeah, sometimes.